Good morning, everybody. And we finally made it. We're here, end of Psalm 119, 176 verses later. And so we will be looking this morning at this final verse of this psalm. And I think you'll see we'll move a lot quicker after today. And so look with me there in the 119th one more time. And I do hope you'll go back to this psalm and study its various stanzas as each one deals with somewhat of a different circumstance in the psalmist's life, all of them pointing back to the value of the Word of God and the importance of the Word of God in those situations. And so I think it's a good one for you to spend some time on your own with. Now, last verse, I have gone astray like a lost sheep. Seek thy servant, for I do not forget thy commandments. And so the psalmist ends up by admitting that he was a lost sheep, that he had went astray, and again, kind of a interesting ending to the psalm. As much of the psalm, he has been calling out for God's rescue from his persecutors, confessing his allegiance and love for the Word of God. And unfortunately, we really don't know what he means here. In what way had he strayed? It doesn't really show so much here, but if you were to say that today, you would say, "I have strayed," past tense, that it was already done. And so the psalmist here um, it seems to be that he's saying that something has happened in the past, that his straying isn't taking place at the same time that he was writing the psalm. And if you look at if you consider the previous 175 verses again, he has repeatedly stressed his allegiance and love for God and His Word. And so it seems that he's talking about something that had happened in the past. If you look back at verse, let me scroll back to it here. If you look at verse 67, he makes a statement similar to that. Before I was afflicted, I went astray. And so again, he appears to be um, saying that something has happened in the past that has caused him, or that he had strayed from obedience, but now he has learned from his mistake and from his straying, and so he asked God to seek Him, to again to find Him, and I think what he's saying is, keep me uh, from doing that again. I've learned my lesson, and I don't want to go there again. Uh, and again, look at that last statement, or that middle state, that last statement of that phrase, "Seek thy servant." So he identifies himself as God's servant, and then he says, "I don't forget your commandments." And so, as I read that, and I consider uh, the whole psalm, not just this verse. If you were just to take this verse, I think it would lead you to one conclusion. But I think when we take the whole context of the psalm, it leads us to a different conclusion. and that is that he had at some point strayed from God. He had went away from his obedience to the Word of God, and now God had convicted him, and he had seen the error of his ways, and he had come back to following the Lord and being obedient to him. And what he's praying now is, Lord, I don't want to go there again. I don't want to make that mistake. I don't want to be far from you again. And so, as we come to his final words here, he gives us this final, I think, example, or even exhortation. Most of us can, I think, probably identify with the psalmist here, that there have been those times in our life when we have strayed from the path of good and right. Like sheep, we have went astray. And um, to learn like the psalmist, to learn from those mistakes, to learn, Lord, seek me, keep me on the right path, keep me following you, serving you, keep me where I need to be um, as I go through this life. I don't want to forget your commandments. I want to stay faithful and loyal to you. And one of the ways we can do that is by what the psalmist has been stressing throughout this whole psalm, and that is by leaning on his word, by staying in the word of God, by studying and reading and taking the word of God into our heart. Again, as that lamp and light to our feet and to our path, that he guides us so that we don't go astray. And again, what a interesting way and a great way to end this lengthy psalm is by reminding us of that we don't want to go there again. If you've ever been as Kenneth Ridings, who for many years was the president at Fruitland Baptist Bible Institute up in Hendersonville. I've heard him on numerous occasions describe, he says, I hear people talk about being in the center of God's will. And he says, what I've found is that the center of God's will is a very, very narrow, pointed place. He says, very slippery. He says, I've been drugged through it a time or two. He said, but I've never managed to stay there very long. He said, but this much I know. He said, if you've ever been in the center of God's will for any amount of time, you'll never rest until you get back there again. And as we wrap up this psalm, I hope, like the psalmist, that's our prayer today. Is, Lord, I want to be in the center of your will. I want to stay there. And if I do slip out of it, I want you to do everything you can. I want you to give me the strength I need, the desire to get back into that place. All right. I hope you've learned something from this long psalm. Again, we'll pick up with the 120th tomorrow and start through it. And again, we'll move, I think, a lot quicker through these next few psalms. But I hope the 119th has been a real challenge and an encouragement to you. And we will again pick back up in the 120th next time. Have a great day. We'll see you back here soon.